In the ancient kingdom of Viralia, the skies were not mere decoration. They were alive, pulsing with the glowing threads of starlight that wove the fates of every living being. These threads, fragile yet unyielding, were guided by the Star Weaver, a celestial being tasked with maintaining the balance of destiny. But even stars can falter, and the Star Weaver was no exception. This time, the descent of the Star Weaver brought not harmony, but chaos. The threads began to fray, and the once brilliant tapestry of fate threatened to unravel. And so, the world turned to its unexpected hero, a young woman named Ilara, born under strange circumstances and carrying a mark of the stars on her shoulder. A mark that foretold both hope and destruction. This is her story, the Song of the Star Weaver. The port city of Altheris, perched at the edge of the Azure Sea, its cobblestone streets alive with the hum of life. Merchants shouted their wares, spices, silks, and treasures from faraway lands. Children darted through the streets, their laughter mingling with the creak of shipmasts swaying in the sea breeze. But above the city, the sky told a different story. Clouds churned, tinged with a faint golden glow, and a distant starstorm loomed on the horizon. The air carried a strange energy, as though the world was holding its breath. Ilara, a scavenger by trade, moved unnoticed through the bustling streets. Her auburn hair framed her determined face, and the constellation-shaped birthmark on her shoulder was hidden beneath a worn cloak. She had always been an outsider, yet today she felt something more, a pull, a quiet hum that seemed to vibrate in her very bones. As the first droplets of rain fell, she found herself drawn to the ruins of an ancient temple at the city's edge. And there, her journey began. The ruins were overgrown, vines snaking through the cracks of ancient stone. Faint glyphs glowed along the walls, their light flickering like the dying embers of a forgotten age. Ilara knelt, tracing the symbols with her fingers, their warmth unfamiliar, yet oddly comforting. Then a voice interrupted her thoughts. I wouldn't linger here too long. She turned sharply, her gaze meeting the piercing blue eyes of a silver-haired stranger. He was tall, cloaked in robes embroidered with celestial patterns. His staff, etched with glowing runes, glimmered faintly in the dim light. Who are you? Ilara demanded. Kale, he replied simply. A fallen star. Ilara scoffed, but something in his voice, a weight of guilt and sorrow, made her pause. The threads are fraying, Kale continued, stepping closer. The Star Weaver is wounded, and if it dies, so does our world. Ilara wanted to run, to turn her back on this stranger and his impossible words. But the glyphs on the walls flared suddenly, and her birthmark burned with a light she couldn't ignore. She didn't know it yet, but fate had already chosen her. The journey took them to the mountains, where threads of light twisted through the air like ribbons caught in an endless wind. At the heart of a hidden cave, they found the Star Weaver. It was a being of unearthly beauty, its form constantly shifting between human and celestial. Constellations glimmered on its translucent skin, and its eyes shone with the light of 1,000 galaxies. Yet its movements were slow, its glow dimmed by a spreading darkness. I am dying, the Star Weaver said, its voice a melody that resonated deep within Ilara's chest. The threads are unraveling, corrupted by mortal greed. If the Astralis core falls into the wrong hands, everything will end. Ilara's heart raced. Why me? What can I do? The Star Weaver's gaze softened, its light bathing her in warmth. You were never meant to exist, Ilara. Your thread was severed at birth, yet your mother rewove it, sacrificing her own. That makes you untethered, a wild card. Kale stepped forward, his expression grim. And that makes her the only one who can stop this. The final confrontation unfolded in a chamber of swirling light and shadow. Threads of fate spiraled chaotically, their glow dimmed by the corruption spreading from the Astralis core. At the center of it all stood King Azrith, his golden armor encrusted with dark crystals. His sword, forged from corrupted starlight, radiated power and menace. Fate is mine to command, Azrith bellowed. I will rewrite the stars themselves. Kale fought valiantly, holding back shadowy soldiers with his glowing staff. But the tide of battle turned against them. Ilara faced Azrith alone, her birthmark blazing as she dodged his strikes with fierce determination. You're just a thread, Azrith sneered. Maybe, Ilara shot back, her voice steady. But even one thread can change the tapestry. With a final surge of courage, she reached the Astralis core. Its light pulsed wildly as she made her choice. Ilara stood before the Astralis core, the heart of fate itself. It floated silently, a glowing sphere suspended in midair, radiating waves of light and shadow that twisted and spiraled chaotically around her. The threads of destiny stretched outward from the core, their glow dimming as corruption spread through them like poison. The Starweaver's voice echoed faintly in her mind, urging her forward. "You can repair the tapestry," it said, "but the cost will be your own existence. Or destroy the core and leave the world to chaos." Ilara's heart pounded, the weight of the decision threatening to crush her. The chamber around her was alive with celestial energy, the fractured sky above shimmering with stars and galaxies spinning out of control. She reached out hesitantly, her constellation-shaped birthmark glowing brightly against her skin, pulsing in harmony with the core's erratic light. Her face, illuminated by its radiant glow, reflected the storm within her: fear, hope, sorrow, and determination. "I can't let it end like this," she whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. The core pulsed harder, its light nearly blinding as the threads of fate twisted tighter. Ilara closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and did the one thing no one had foreseen. She rewrote the pattern. Instead of choosing one path, she wove her own. Her untethered thread looped and danced through the core, creating a new balance, one where fate remained intact, but no longer absolute. People would be free to shape their own destinies. The core shattered in a brilliant explosion of light, the threads bursting outward to weave across the heavens. The fractured sky began to heal, the corruption dissipating as the stars regained their steady glow. Ilara fell to her knees, the weight of her choice still heavy on her heart. But as she looked up at the now brilliant cosmos, a faint smile crossed her lips. The Starweaver's voice, faint but serene, reached her one final time. "Thank you, Ilara. You have shown me the beauty of imperfection." And then the chamber fell silent, save for the quiet hum of the stars above. The sky stretched endlessly above, a vast ocean of stars shimmering in their quiet brilliance. The Milky Way arched across the heavens, its glow soft and steady, a reminder of all that had been restored. On a quiet hill, surrounded by rolling fields of grass swaying gently in the breeze, Ilara stood alone. Her silhouette was framed by the starlit sky, and the faint glow of her constellation-shaped birthmark was visible on her shoulder. She gazed upward, her expression a mix of wonder and sorrow. The stars, once so distant, now felt closer than ever, as though they were whispering their thanks to her for what she had done. Ilara reached up, as if to touch them, but her hand fell back to her side. A single tear rolled down her cheek, glistening in the starlight before falling into the earth below. She was no longer just a scavenger, no longer just an untethered thread in the tapestry of fate. She was a weaver, a guide, a symbol of hope in a world reborn. And yet she was alone. The Starweaver was gone, its light faded into the stars above. Kael's sacrifice lingered in her heart, his spirit now one with the cosmos. The weight of her choice was heavy, but she carried it with quiet strength. As the breeze whispered through the grass, Ilara smiled faintly. The world was free now, free to choose, to grow, to create its own destiny. The stars above shimmered brighter, as if celebrating her courage. And as Ilara turned to walk down the hill, her figure silhouetted against the night, the stars seemed to sing her name. Ilara, the untethered thread. And so, her journey continued, a lone wanderer under a sky of infinite possibility.